Okay, abisafo eno so ye dash nko nyankopon e dia che enti yambo ni to na chese ye hunia ekoso ewe man Ghana mase so sisi ano former finance minister Seth Terkper aye NDC ni edin sembi ababonti na ni nsem ne se eye NDC for edin tro ene wini aba ye to last year 7th of December 2024 na ochirema osi eye NDC for titiru any okujeto abrakwa enye ono kwa but impenifo nim bi a omo NDC amanyoko nim the external factors and eye politics enam so momutimi wini eye abaye to no last year 7th of December 2024 now ose eye external factors ya dia obia ebetimi affect economy no emfa honu obia osiso that particular time no yesha from 2020 to 2024 na eye former president Nana Addo Akufo-Addo na newa bem eyom se na niema nyina enkoso pepepe but na external factors no eya dia na ha eye yankase ye president former Nana Addo Akufo-Addo yepa enam so ama NDC for efa akonya bebre so eyo maje se by hook or crook kwai bi ombefa so bia omeka nsema emfa anase ensena emfata ho ombeka na nyame ya adoma 2024 omonso etimi aba beye the ruling government for the Republic of Ghana instead bebre ena eye former finance minister Seth Terkper oye NDC ni asisi a enkoye Emma NDC amanyoko numa chere se entrolling tin omudi wini eya abaye to no 2024 de dia that means omonso omuntimi really economy ni because obia ba ebe affecting them especially with our dollar rate etimi cost through anytime etimi ba from anytime inflation koso basa and even galamse ense bebre na na eye Seth Terkper edituja enti no mempese meso brand kamel na chese yenkoti esem na hodo inchiremu aye Seth Terkper edituja yenche yenkoti emersia medas.
Let's be careful. Let's make sure that we have, in essence what he's saying that when you have when the trend starts to reverse, make sure that you have reserves, right, to put back reserves, which is sacrifice. Reserve which is sacrifice. To set reserves, as in households, as in businesses, is sacrifice. Right? So when we create it and the shifts are occurring, then we will have to fall on it, to make sure that, we stabilize the situation, because it's good to stabilize and to sustain reforms. Now, you spoke about revenue.
Were revenue being affected? Was that a major consideration?
Of course, revenue would have to be.
Import levy was being hit?
Wait a minute. Yes, because our revenue today is a factor. Yeah. And I'm saying, let me illustrate. Our revenue today, right? And I'm talking revenue, not tax revenue. Our revenue today is about 15%. Right? 17%.
Okay. Tax GDP ratio?
Yes.
Okay.
The tax GDP ratio is around 15%.
Okay.
The revenue is around 17-18%. But as a middle income country that we have become, it is our tax to GDP ratio that should be 17%, 18%. Even for an African country. It is not 15%. And that is why, we are the president, the minister, and others have spoken about getting technical assistance in order to bring the VAT regime back to where it was. And then the president said it would affect the entire, revenue consideration when the debates were going on. And therefore, the levies that are being imposed, we have had a temporary levy policy where you have sunset clauses. You use them during austerity and then you remove them. In other words, they are similar to your counter-cyclical measures. When so let me use a practical example, which is true. When we went into COVID globally, right? You remember that's when Zoom, and telephony and things, hit a boom, right? Therefore, that's when, and because many of these are done through the banking sector, that's when you have your FinSec levy. Because it is not the whole sector that is depressed. There's a sector that is doing well on account of we being at home. And therefore, meetings were being done on the laptop, on the phone, and whatever. it means that that sector, is booming. So you put a temporary levy on it, right? You put a temporary levy on it. Of course, a time will come when COVID will be over, and it did, right? And today, yes, there's some stability in the use of Zoom and the other, but it's not at the peak when it was, in a crisis, when they were favorable. So, to summarize again, all that we are saying is that you cannot manage an economy without crisis. You cannot manage an economy continuously for 4 years, 3-4 years, without one crisis or the other. Right? Mpox. Mpox is in the news.
Yeah.
Right? How are we preparing for it? Or how did we prepare for it? Have we put some reserves, learning from COVID, so that when Mpox comes, we fall on those reserves, to manage? And that is when the reserves you are keeping, because you will have to tackle it. That's when you take the reserves, right, to manage it. I mean, this is not saying you are manipulating the markets. No, you are only managing the economy because...
And the question they are asking is, can a self-confessed errand boy be privy to, understand, and appreciate national security operations and the funding thereof? Regrettably, there's nothing in this witness statement which incriminates the accused person. These are the words of the lawyers. I don't know what the position that the judge will take, but these are the words of the lawyers. And we're sharing it with you as a matter of public interest. Now, he's saying here that the person that is your witness statement says of himself that I'm an errand boy to Kwabena Dubois. He sends me to go and buy him Yokagari, and sends me to go and buy him Wache, and sends me to the bank, and sends me to do everything. He said, okay, how many times did he send you to the bank? He said, he sends me to the bank every Wednesday. About how much money do you collect? Hey, it's a lot of money. Oh, hey, my boss, when he sends me to the bank, money is in Ghana, must go back. It's a lot. What do you do with the money? Well, when I take it from the bank, sometimes I bring it to him. Sometimes I bring it here. And then it appears he was asked, do you send some to his wife? Because there's a headline who says that I did not send any money to Kwabena Dubois. So he says, no, I didn't send any money to his wife. So the conversation here is that if you are prosecuting a boss and you want to find out that the boss of a national security system has misappropriated money, the way to do it is not to call his errand boy and say, yeah, he's sent to go to the bank. He doesn't know what it is for. He doesn't know. He just goes to collect the money and he brings it. But that is one of the principal witnesses for the prosecution. And the defense lawyers are suggesting that this might not work. But it depends on what the courts will do. The next one, prosecution witness statement of Edith Ruby Opoku Edumoa. And he says that, can we assume that the witness has obtained national security clearance to violate his oath of confidentiality and testify on matters of national security consequence and ramifications? As paragraph 7, the witness states the following, quote, the operational accounts, however, were managed by the director of the BNC and supervised by the National Security Coordinator. The defense lawyers are suggesting to us that inside the witness statement, there's a line which really reveals everything. And tonight we have letters to show you that indeed, bosses of Kwabena Dubois supervised the work that he was doing with those humongous sums of money. It says this is the witness speaking, that the operational account, this is a witness who works there. This is not just an errand boy. This is somebody who works there, and that's why they're asking whether he has had national security clearance. Anyway, you may say that the government can clear him and they don't have to tell the defense counsel. That's possible. But let's look here. 7 paragraph. It says, the operational accounts, however, were managed by the director of the BNC, which is the first accused, Kwabena Dubois, and supervised by the National Security Coordinator. So the question is, National Security Coordinator, did you truly supervise this account? Then if the prosecution is concerned about the way the accounts were supervised, they can charge the National Security Coordinator as A2 if they want. Let's move on and see a little bit more. Thus, he continues, thus checks were written upon the instructions of the director of the BNC, and the reasons for payments were never disclosed to the head of finance. So the guy says that the account was supervised, this is in the witness statement, that the account was supervised by the National Security Coordinator. And so the checks that were written upon instructions of the BNC director, and the reasons for payment were never disclosed to him, head of finance, because it is supervised by them. They write the checks. They don't tell him the reason why. That is the way in which things are done. They don't tell them the reason why. He says, and this is the point, it's a question. Is this not a self-confession that at the level of operational accounts, not even the national security operatives may be able to interpret and come to terms with the reasons behind the expenditures? By this implication and necessary admission, how can anybody interpret expenditures touching on operational matters as misappropriated for personal gain? And I may add, without the confirmation of the boss, the national security minister, the national security coordinator. If you bring an errand boy to say, I took money, or you bring the head of finance who is saying to you that the way they do it there, I don't get to know what the money is for. It's between the national security coordinator and the BNC boss. They take the money and they do their operations. It's an operational account. I don't know it. Now, so coded is this operational account that if you look at the bank and the accounts, the check name, the checkbook, the name of the checkbook is a BNC account. But if you look at the email trail from the relationship between Iyoko and the banks in the investigation, the account is not called BNC. It is called the National Security Coordinator's account. That's the proper name. But the checkbook is not written as National Security Coordinator account because they don't want everybody in the bank. They print the checks, they bring it, and I'm going to say, hey, National Security account, hey, wait, no. So the checkbook bears a different name for the real account. So when the check comes to the bank and it goes to a teller and they see it and they enter it, they will see National Security account and they take it to their boss. But, hey, boss, there's some check, your people, please. And then they deal with it. So it is in the witness statement. So what the lawyers are telling us is that even if you look at their own witness statements, they have admitted that there's a hierarchy through which this process goes. And without that hierarchy, you cannot incriminate anyone. So now there's more that we have found in the laws of the National Signals Bureau Act that was passed by Parliament. And we're going to share that with you in a minute. Let me rush through it so we don't spend too